My name is Rhea Calder, 30 years old. Miami glittered like it had been polished for my sister's big night. Palm fronds trembling under fairy lights. The Ocean Breeze Resort, humming with money and curated joy. I parked under a flood of chandelier glow spilling through the glass-walled reception hall and sat for a breath, fingers locked around the steering wheel until my knuckles bleached. Be gracious, I told myself. Smile, toast, leave early. I smoothed the emerald dress I'd picked to be invisible and walked toward the check-in table. The woman behind the tablet had a sales conference smile and the crisp blazer to match. Name, pen poised. Rhea Calder, I added gently because it always helped. Sister of the bride. Her brows pinched. She scrolled, then scrolled again. The way people do when they're hoping the world rearranges to avoid a conversation. I'm not seeing that. It's a wedding, not the Oscars, I said, trying to tease. My voice sounded cheerful and faintly distant. I'm on there. She checked slower, like reverence might conjure me from the ether. I'm so sorry, you're not on this list. Maybe try calling someone? My mouth made a small, practiced smile that meant I wasn't surprised. Sure. I dialed my mother. The ringtone trilled twice. Rhea? Marjorie sounded breathless, thrilled in a way that had nothing to do with me. Music swelled in the background. They can't find my name, I said. Can you? Oh, don't make a fuss. We're in the middle of photos. Stand by the entrance. I'll send someone. Mom, The line went dead. The check-in woman pretended to read, the way kind people do when they don't know where to put their eyes. I thanked her anyway and stepped back. Through the glass, I could see Veronica in a dress that moved like water, laughing with her new husband, Ryan Kennedy. He was handsome in the aspirational way of magazine spreads. Dark hair, easy smile. But the laugh he offered the bridesmaid at his elbow was a touch too loud. Performance, not joy. Heels clicked across tile. Veronica drifted toward me with the efficient grace of a woman who had scheduled her own delight in 15-minute blocks. She said, arms opening like we were in a commercial for forgiveness. What's wrong? I'm not on the list, I said simply. Can you fix it? Her expression rippled into concern. Oh, no. That must be a mistake. It's been chaos. She didn't glance at the tablet, didn't wave over a planner, just let the silence sit until it grew into a message. Please exit quietly. I'll figure it out, I said. Good, she answered, all tenderness smoothed back into control. Just don't make a scene, okay? It's my day. Then she pivoted, veil haloing as she disappeared into light. I stood in the heat, the courtyard fountain gurgling its indifferent song. For a second, I considered leaving. 3 hours back to Tampa, radio low, a hotel burger at midnight. I could have done that and called it maturity. But something in me, something that remembered school plays where my name was cut off the program and Christmas photos where I hovered at the frame's edge, rose and refused. I texted Wendy Larson, the only person I knew at this resort who'd pick me over protocol. Locked out of V's wedding. Not on the list. Help? Her reply came in 5 seconds. Side door by the hibiscus hedge. I'll swipe you in. I slipped along the building, heels sinking in damp grass, the night heavy with roses and generator hum. Wendy was there, hair in a messy bun, staff badge flashing like a shield. Your sister's a hurricane in a ball gown, she whispered. Come on. The door clicked, the corridor swallowing us in cool air and the faint bite of cleaning solution. Staff moved with practiced urgency, headsets whispering times and names. Heads up, Wendy murmured as we walked. She had a closed door with the head planner and catering manager a half hour ago. Tightened access. Locked the office after. We're on a need-to-know basis now. Why lock an office at your own wedding? I asked. Because something's in there worth locking, she said. Be careful. We slid through a service hall to the reception. Crystal chandeliers and white roses flooded the room with soft light. The dance floor spun with tasteful joy. I paused at the easel with the seating chart, ivory cardstock in a gold frame, names in the calligrapher's expensive hand. Marjorie and Philip Sanders, head table. Veronica and Ryan, center. Ryan's cousins, his college roommate's girlfriend. Everyone had a seat. The space where my name might have lived was elegantly occupied by family friend Kennedy. Near the base of the easel, under the lip of the frame, a second printout peered out. Someone had tossed it face down into a bin, the corner torn. My stomach pulled tight. I slipped my fingers beneath and flipped just enough to see a scratch of ink where a line had been struck through, so hard the paper bruised. I didn't need to read it to know what name had lived there before someone decided I hadn't. Rhea, Wendy asked softly. I'm good, I lied. I stepped into the room. Conversations orbited me without collision. A waiter offered flutes. I took water, grateful for the anchor. Across the space, Marjorie adjusted Veronica's veil with the intimacy of a sculptor with her marble. Philip stood with a drink and the familiar pose of neutral furniture. I moved toward them. Mom, can we talk a second? She didn't turn. Not now. Don't be dramatic. It will take 10 seconds, I said, even. I wasn't on the list. I don't have a seat. We had to prioritize family, she said, smoothing lace that didn't need smoothing. I am family. Please, Rhea, she hissed, smile never faltering. Don't spoil this. Ryan glanced over then, caught my eye for half a beat. Up close, the easy charm had hairline cracks. Congratulations, I said when he approached for the ritual hug brides acquire by marriage. Thank you, he said, and it landed without weight. Can I ask off the record? His voice dipped. Has Veronica seemed different lately? Calls she won't explain? Work she can't talk about? 100 archived moments flickered. My sister's polished answers, the way she'd always made need sound like benevolence, leverage sound like love. Veronica's good at planning, I said. Sometimes that means keeping things compartmentalized. He nodded like he'd expected nothing and somehow still hoped for more. Right. He lifted his glass, failed to drink, and drifted away. Wendy reappeared at my shoulder. You sure you want to be here? I'm not giving her the satisfaction of disappearing, I said. Then keep your back to a wall, she said lightly, but her eyes were serious. And if you need the office... She tilted her head toward a plain door off the bandstand. You didn't hear that from me. Under the chandelier wash, the air smelled like roses and money. The string quartet skimmed something like joy. I stood there with my water and my composure and felt the old ache, the one that comes from being invited to watch yourself be erased. I wasn't leaving, but I also wasn't going to drown in this room. I watched the plain door and thought, if there's proof of why I was cut, it's behind whatever she locked. And for the first time all night, my pulse steadied into purpose. The band was playing something bright and hollow when I slipped toward the side hallway Wendy had nodded to. Laughter rippled behind me, the sound of champagne and secrets mixing under chandeliers. I walked like someone with a purpose, not guilt. The trick to getting anywhere you don't belong. The service corridor smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and cooling steel. A staff-only sign hung crooked over a plain metal door. I pushed, expecting it to be locked. It wasn't. Inside, the planner's office was a cramped rectangle of chaos. Fabric swatches, seating mock-ups, half-empty coffee cups. A laptop blinked sleepily on a desk cluttered with binders labeled Kennedy Sanders Wedding. Final. The hum of the mini-fridge filled the quiet. I didn't know what I was looking for, only that I'd recognize it when I saw it. The top binder held invoices and vendor notes. Underneath was a manila folder stamped Contracts, Miscellaneous. I opened it. More paper, more nothing, until a page half hidden under a coffee mug caught my eye. Subject, Ryan's Family Assets. From Veronica Sanders, V.A. Sanders, at veronicaplans.com. To Claire M., legal advisor. Date 2 weeks ago. Ryan's family is loaded. Once the wedding is done, I'll convince him to transfer some holdings into our joint account. He's sentimental, easy to guilt. If he resists, we can fast-track the divorce within a year. Either way, I'm covered. Keep this between us. No one, especially his mother, can know. I froze. My own reflection stared back from the glossy paper, wide-eyed, disbelieving, but not surprised. Somewhere deep down, I'd always known my sister treated love like currency. Footsteps echoed in the hall. I barely had time to slide the email into my clutch before the door opened. A woman's silhouette filled the frame. Tall, silver hair perfectly pinned, navy dress expensive enough to whisper old money. Ms. Calder, she said, her tone precise. Would you like to tell me why you're rifling through my planner's files? I straightened slowly. Mrs. Kennedy? Her gaze didn't waver. The same. And you are? Rhea, the bride's sister. I swallowed hard. And, if I'm being honest, the family's designated ghost. Something flickered behind her eyes, the faintest twitch of recognition. Interesting title. Why are you in here, Rhea? I hesitated, then held up the paper. Because of this. She stepped closer, heels clicking like punctuation. I passed her the page, watching her eyes scan line by line. Her face didn't move, but the muscles in her hand tightened until the paper trembled. When she looked up, her voice had gone cold. So it's true. You suspected? I asked. I don't suspect, she said. I confirm. Veronica has been charming my son and my boardroom contacts for months. I've seen women like her before, ambition disguised as affection. There was no triumph in her tone, only exhaustion. She folded the email neatly, sliding it into her clutch as though it were evidence in a case she'd been building quietly for years. I came here to find out why my name was missing from the guest list, I said. I think I found the bigger story. Gloria's eyes softened a fraction. You did, and now you're part of it. I shook my head. I don't want to destroy her. I just want the truth out. She nodded, approving the honesty. Then you and I want the same thing. We stood there, two women linked by the same betrayal from opposite ends of the table. For a moment, I almost laughed at the absurdity. It had taken my sister's wedding to make someone finally see me. Gloria's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then back at me. They're all in the lounge. Veronica, Ryan, your parents, she's spinning another story, and I intend to end it before the ink on this marriage dries. My pulse quickened. You want me to come? I want a witness, she said simply. Someone she can't twist the narrative around. The hum of the fridge seemed to grow louder, a metronome counting down the seconds before everything changed. All right, I said quietly. Let's end it. We left together, the resort's marble hallways gleaming under soft gold light. Gloria's stride was measured, deliberate, the pace of someone who had decided this confrontation would happen on her terms. As we neared the private lounge, the laughter from the reception faded, replaced by the low hum of voices that sounded strained, too careful. Gloria paused at the door and turned to me. You understand, she said. After tonight, your sister will never forgive you. She already doesn't, I replied. Gloria gave a small, humorless smile. Then let's give her a reason. She opened the door. Inside, my family was waiting, like they'd been caught in a freeze frame. Veronica by the window, arms crossed, Ryan pacing, my mother perched stiffly on a sofa, clutching her purse. My father half turned toward the door, surprise flickering as he saw me enter with Gloria Kennedy. Rhea? Veronica's voice cut across the room, sharp enough to draw blood. What are you doing here? Listening, I said. And you might want to, too. Gloria laid the folded paper on the table between us, her expression calm but lethal. Perhaps you'd like to explain this email, Mrs. Kennedy. The silence that followed was so heavy it almost hummed. Veronica's eyes darted between us. Confusion, then calculation, then the glint of fear. That's fake, she said, too quickly. Rhea, what did you do? I didn't move. I opened a door you locked, that's all. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Locked? Gloria tapped the paper once, her manicured nail clicking against the desk. She was very thorough. Emails, legal counsel, contingency plans. You've married a strategist, Ryan, one with a 1-year exit clause. Veronica laughed, brittle. You're unbelievable. You'll listen to her? She's been jealous of me her whole life. Marjorie stood abruptly, the old reflex of maternal defense already forming. Rhea, that's a serious accusation. Then read it, I said. No one moved. The air felt electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. Philip finally spoke, his voice lower than I'd heard it in years. Let her read it, Marjorie. My mother's lips parted in protest, then pressed shut. She sank back onto the couch. Gloria unfolded the page and read the email aloud, her tone clipped and surgical. Each sentence landed like a hammer on porcelain. By the time she reached, either way, I'm covered, Veronica's composure had begun to crack. Ryan stared at his wife, disbelief carving deep lines into his face. You plan to divorce me? He said softly, before we even said I do? Veronica didn't answer. She just stood there, shoulders rigid, eyes glinting like glass about to shatter. And somewhere in the space between their silence, I realized something simple, devastating, and true. She hadn't just stolen my spotlight. She'd stolen her own future, too. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. The paper between Gloria and Veronica lay like a fuse, its edges trembling in the air conditioning. Ryan was the first to move. He took one step toward his wife, voice raw but steady. You were going to marry me, drain my accounts, and file for divorce within a year. That's what this says. Veronica blinked slowly, then forced a laugh that sounded too sharp to be real. Ryan, come on, you think I'd actually write something like that? It's obviously fake. My sister's been trying to ruin my life since we were kids. Fake? Gloria said, her tone as calm as a courtroom judge. I had my IT team verify the metadata. The email was sent from your account 2 weeks ago from this very building's Wi-Fi. That's proof. Color drained from Veronica's face. You had me investigated? Gloria's eyes didn't soften. No, I simply checked to see whether my instincts were right. Marjorie jumped in, her voice shaking. This is absurd. Veronica's worked so hard for everything she has. She would never... She would, I said quietly. The words came out before I could stop them. All eyes turned to me. She would, because she's done it before, just in smaller ways. The scholarships she took credit for helping me get, the projects she claimed as hers at her old job, the time she convinced you she was saving me when she was really sabotaging me. I glanced at Veronica. You built a career on pretending generosity while collecting debts you never paid back. Veronica's composure cracked. Oh, please, you're pathetic. Still dragging up ancient history to justify why no one likes you. Ryan's jaw tightened. She's not the one on trial here, Veronica. That did it. Veronica spun on him, her voice rising. Don't talk to me like I'm some criminal. You're the one who's been distant for months. Maybe if you'd actually acted like a husband, I wouldn't have had to... To what? Gloria interrupted, sharp as a whip. Trap him? The silence afterward was deafening. Ryan turned away, running a hand through his hair, breathing hard. You don't love me, he said finally. You love the lifestyle. Veronica's eyes filled, but the tears looked practiced, a performance she'd refined over years of manipulation. That's not fair. You don't understand what it's like. I've had to fight for everything, for respect, for recognition, for security. You have no idea what it's like to be the one who can lose everything in a blink. For a flicker, I saw something genuine, fear, not greed. Maybe the same fear that had made her build this glossy, merciless version of herself. But empathy didn't erase the truth. You were never going to lose everything, I said softly. You just didn't want anyone else to have more. Philip spoke then, his voice quieter than the hum of the AC. Enough, Veronica. We all turned. I'd almost forgotten he was there, our father, silent through every family argument, always the shadow beside my mother's judgments. But now his eyes were on Veronica, steady, heavy with something I'd never seen in him before, disappointment. You've hurt people for years, he said, and I let it happen. I thought keeping peace was the same as keeping family. He looked at me then, the words landing like a small, stunned mercy. I was wrong, Rhea. The floor shifted under my feet. For so long I'd imagined him saying those words, and now that he had, I didn't even know how to stand still under them. Veronica's breath hitched. Dad, you're really taking her side? I'm taking the side of the truth, he said simply. Marjorie's face crumpled. Philip, stop. This is our daughter. So is she, he replied, nodding toward me. You just forgot. Something inside me broke open then, not in pain, but in release. Veronica's mask slipped. You're all turning on me, she hissed. Over one stupid email? It's not one email, Gloria said. It's a pattern. My son deserves better. Ryan turned to her, eyes clouded, but resolute. Mom, I've already spoken to my attorney. The prenup's ironclad. Veronica can't touch a cent of the Kennedy assets. Veronica flinched. You had a prenup? Ryan nodded slowly. You insisted I trust you, remember? So I did, but I also trusted my mother. Her lips parted in shock. For the first time that night, the self-assured tilt of her chin faltered. You were planning to trap me, he said. Turns out I trapped you first. The words hit her like a physical blow. The room was silent except for the faint buzz of the air vent and the muffled bass of the wedding band still playing somewhere far away, oblivious. Marjorie tried again, her voice trembling. Veronica, please, say something. Veronica's eyes darted around the room, looking for someone to save her, for a version of reality she could twist into her favor. No one moved. Not me, not Philip, not Ryan, not Gloria. Her breath came out shaky. You'll regret this, she said finally. All of you. Then she grabbed her clutch, pushed past us, and stormed out the door. The echo of her heels faded down the corridor like punctuation at the end of a sentence no one wanted to finish. For a long moment, no one spoke. Ryan sank into a chair, running his hand over his face. Well, he said softly, that's one way to end a marriage. Gloria exhaled, measured and steady. Better tonight than 10 years from now. Philip looked at me. You should go, Rhea, before she circles back. She won't, Gloria said. Not tonight. She's lost her audience. I nodded, exhausted, but lighter than I'd been in years. I'm done anyway. As I turned to leave, Marjorie's voice caught me. Rhea. I stopped but didn't turn. She began, then faltered. I don't even know what to say. For once, Mom, I said quietly, maybe don't say anything. Just think. And I walked out. The hallway felt wider than before. The sound of Veronica's heels still echoed faintly down the marble corridor as I stepped out of the lounge. It didn't sound like footsteps anymore, more like glass cracking under pressure. I paused by a window overlooking the courtyard. The fairy lights shimmered over the fountain, casting ripples of white across the tiles. From here, the reception looked almost peaceful. Guests were whispering, glancing toward the doors, trying to decide whether to stay for dessert or flee the scene of a social crime. I breathed out, a long, uneven breath that seemed to leave more space inside me than before. Behind me, I could hear low voices. Gloria quietly instructing a staff member to escort Ryan to a private suite, Philip murmuring something I couldn't catch. Then the door opened again, and my mother's voice called softly. Rhea, wait! I turned. Marjorie stood in the hallway, still clutching the same gold clutch from the ceremony. Her mascara had smudged, but her posture, perfect, tense, hadn't changed in decades. Don't, I said before she could start. Please, she whispered, just give me a moment. I folded my arms, silent. She hesitated, then said, I didn't know about any of it. I thought... You thought Veronica's version of everything was the truth, I said, not unkindly. You always did. Marjorie's eyes glistened. She's always been fragile. You were so strong, Rhea. I thought you didn't need us. That's what you told yourself, I replied, because it was easier than admitting you didn't look. She flinched, and for the first time in years, she looked small, like a woman suddenly realizing the damage her own blindness had caused. I loved you both, she said helplessly. I nodded. Just differently, and that difference shaped everything. Silence stretched between us, filled with every childhood recital she'd missed, every praise she'd saved for Veronica's smallest achievement, while mine were met with polite nods. I know I can't fix this tonight, she murmured. You can't fix it, I said softly. You can only face it? Her lips trembled. Will you ever forgive me? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to ease the ache in both of us. But the truth, the hard, necessary truth, was different. I don't know, I said, but I'm done bleeding for a family that only notices me when there's a fire. She nodded slowly, tears finally spilling over. Then maybe losing Veronica tonight was my wake-up call. No, I said quietly. It was mine. I walked away, leaving her standing in the hall like someone listening to an echo that no longer answered back. Outside, the Miami air wrapped around me. Warm, damp, alive. The sky over the resort glowed faintly pink, city lights bleeding upward like neon confessions. I crossed the courtyard toward the parking lot, my heels clicking against stone, the sound strangely grounding. The night smelled like salt and champagne. Somewhere, the band was still playing, refusing to acknowledge that the celebration had died an hour ago. When I reached my car, my phone buzzed. Wendy. You out? I'm in the kitchen pretending to check the cake inventory. It's chaos. I smiled for the first time in hours and texted back, meet me by the valet entrance in 10. 10 minutes later, her hatchback pulled up beside me, headlights off. She leaned across the passenger seat, her messy bun slightly undone, eyes full of the kind of empathy that didn't need words. You good? She asked. Better than I should be, I admitted. It's over. Over how? Like ended, not fixed. She exhaled. I heard Veronica stormed out. Half the guests left with their phones out. You're trending on someone's cousin's Instagram right now. I let out a laugh that startled even me. Of course I am. Wendy smiled. You know what, Rhea? Screw them. You didn't ruin her wedding. She built her own bomb. You just happened to be the one who pointed at the ticking sound. I leaned back against my car. Feels weird, though. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but it just feels quiet. That's what peace feels like, she said. The word hit me harder than expected. Come on, Wendy added. Bar down the street. First round's on me. I hesitated, glancing back at the resort. Through the glass, I could still see my mother's figure by the door. Small, motionless, lost in a world that had stopped revolving around her perfect daughter. Yeah, I said finally. Let's go. The bar was small, loud, and perfect. Neon signs buzzed over sticky tables. I kicked off my heels and curled my bare feet under the booth. Wendy ordered a beer for me, a margarita for herself, and slid my phone across the table when it buzzed again. Marjorie, we need to talk. I'm sorry. Please call me. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen. Wendy tilted her head. You gonna answer? I shook my head. Not tonight. Good. She raised her glass. To choosing yourself. I clinked mine against hers, the sound bright and clean. To endings, I said. And to the people who stop pretending they're okay with being invisible. Wendy grinned. And to the people who finally see them. We drank, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was drowning in someone else's reflection. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed, the city lights blinking through the blinds. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my father this time. I'm proud of you, Rhea. I should have said that a long time ago. I read it twice before setting it face down on the nightstand. Outside, a storm was starting over the bay, soft thunder rolling, wind pushing the palms sideways. I watched the first drop streak the glass and thought about Veronica somewhere out there, furious, humiliated, still certain she'd find a way to spin this. Maybe she would. Maybe she'd rebuild her life around another narrative, another crowd that would believe her smile. But I wouldn't be in it this time. For once, I didn't need to be the witness to her disasters. I turned off my phone, lay back, and listened to the rain begin. Tomorrow would be clean. Morning came pale and steady, light leaking through the blinds like mercy. For the first time in years, I woke up without that familiar tightness in my chest, the one that came from trying to prove I deserved to exist in the same room as my sister. I made coffee in silence. The air smelled of rain and salt, the city still damp from last night's storm. My phone sat face down on the counter, buzzing every few minutes with messages I didn't check. When I finally flipped it over, there were 6 texts from Marjorie, 2 missed calls from an unknown number, and 1 short message from Gloria Kennedy. She left Miami before sunrise. My son's filing today. Thought you should know. No threats, no drama, just fact. The kind of clean ending Veronica always refused to allow anyone else. I sat with the cup between my palms, steam curling like ghosts. My mother's last text simply read, I hope someday you'll let me explain. Explain what? That she'd built our entire family around the gravitational pull of Veronica's wants? That I'd been orbiting that sun so long I forgot I had light of my own? No explanation could unspool that. Still, I didn't delete the message. Maybe I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I wasn't ready to erase her either. Around noon, Wendy came over with greasy takeout and her usual brand of uninvited friendship. You're trending, she announced between bites. Someone posted the reception meltdown on TikTok. Caption says, when your sister exposes your wedding scam mid-toast. I groaned. Great, just what I needed. My family drama set to a remix. She laughed. Could be worse. Comments are mostly on your side. Internet loves an underdog. I don't want to be anyone's content, I muttered. You already were, she said gently. For them, for your parents, for Veronica. You just didn't get to write the caption before. That stopped me cold. Wendy pushed the fries toward me. So what's next, Rhea? You've got no sister, a mom who's guilt texting, and a dad who finally grew a spine. I smiled faintly. I have freedom. That's next. Freedom doesn't pay rent. I laughed. Fair point. She grinned. Lucky for you, I might have something. Orlando conference. Corporate event. They need a freelance copywriter for promo material. 2 weeks, decent pay. I blinked. You're serious? 5,000 serious. I leaned back, a laugh breaking out before I could stop it. You're ridiculous. I'm useful, she corrected. You need a restart. Take it. I nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe I do. That night, I packed a small suitcase. The rhythm of folding clothes felt like ceremony. Deliberate, grounding. I stopped when I reached the top shelf of my closet, where an old photo album sat under a layer of dust. Christmas 2003. Veronica in the center of every shot, glowing under the tree lights, my mother's hand on her shoulder. Me, half cut out of the frame, holding a gift I'd wrapped myself. I stared at it for a long moment, then closed the album and slid it into the bottom drawer. Not out of sight, but not where it could stare back at me every morning either. When I zipped my suitcase shut, it didn't feel like escape. It felt like exhale. The Orlando hotel smelled like polished marble and citrus air freshener. I checked in, traded my heels for flats, and met Wendy in the lobby. She was already talking to 2 event planners, her hands flying as she gestured to lay out sketches and brand colors. When she spotted me, her face softened. There's my star freelancer. I rolled my eyes. You make it sound glamorous. Rhea, she said. You walked through fire last week and didn't come out bitter. That's pretty glamorous to me. For once, I didn't argue. Days blurred into the rhythm of work. Early mornings drafting ad copy, late nights editing promo reels. The the quiet buzz of hotel hallways humming with other people's ambitions. I'd always been good at focus, at channeling chaos into order. But something new crept into my writing: warmth, humanity. The pieces I turned in weren't just sharp, they felt alive. Wendy noticed. "You're different," she said one night over takeout noodles. "Lighter." "I stopped trying to earn space in the wrong rooms," I said. She smiled. "That's it. You stopped auditioning." I laughed softly. "You sound like a therapist." Maybe I just like watching people realize they were never the problem. Her words stayed with me. The last night of the conference, I stood on the hotel balcony, watching the city lights shimmer below. My phone buzzed again, this time a short message from my father. "Proud of you. Always should have said it sooner." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then, for the first time in a long while, I replied, "Thank you, I'm okay now." I didn't expect a response. He sent one anyway. "You deserve peace, Rhea. Let that be enough." Outside, fireworks bloomed over the city. Gold, violet, dissolving into sparks that faded before they touched the ground. I smiled. "Enough," I whispered. And for once it really was. 2 weeks later, I returned to Miami. Not to my parents' house, not to anything that used to be home, but to the quiet rhythm of my own apartment. The sky was washed pale, the air heavy with humidity and jasmine. The Orlando job had gone better than I'd dared to imagine. The client paid early. Wendy said I was already on the list for the next event. There were possibilities now, and they all had my name on them, not Veronica's. Still, the silence of the apartment felt strange. I'd spent so many years chasing noise, validation, arguments, the hollow drama of being noticed at last. That peace took getting used to. I made tea instead of coffee that morning. The kettle hissed softly, the sound unhurried. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then something in my chest said, "Answer once. End it clean." I picked up. "Hello?" A pause. Then my mother's voice, faint and brittle. "Rhea." "Mom!" Another pause. You could almost hear her choosing every word like she was afraid of stepping on glass. "I just needed to hear your voice. Your father told me you're doing well." "I am." "I've been thinking a lot," she said, "about what I missed, about how I failed both of you. I thought love meant protection, that if I kept Veronica happy, she wouldn't fall apart. I didn't realize I was letting her take you with her every time." Her voice cracked. "You were always the steady one, Rhea. I leaned on that too hard." For a moment, I closed my eyes. The years pressed against me. Every graduation she'd missed, every time she said, "Be the bigger person," every conversation that ended with, "You know how your sister is." "I know you meant well," I said finally, "but good intentions still leave bruises." "I don't want excuses anymore," she whispered. "I just want to be part of your life again, when you're ready." I thought about what forgiveness really meant. Not erasing what happened, but deciding it doesn't get to define what comes next. "Maybe someday," I said softly, "but not today." "I understand," she said. "I'll wait." When the line went quiet, I let the silence sit for a long time. It wasn't heavy anymore, just still. Later that afternoon, Wendy dropped by, unannounced, holding 2 iced coffees and a box of pastries. "You look like someone who just survived an emotional hostage negotiation," she said, handing me a drink. I smirked. "Close enough. My mother called." "Yikes." She sank into my couch. "That a good thing or a bad thing?" "Both," I said, "but mostly closure." She studied me, then nodded. "Good. You needed that." I took a sip of coffee, the cold shock cutting through the warmth of the room. "You know what's weird? I don't feel angry anymore, not at her, not even at Veronica, just done." "That's healing, babe," Wendy smiled. "Feels weird because it's peace disguised as emptiness." I laughed. "You should really start charging for therapy." "Please? You couldn't afford me." We both laughed until the tension broke. That evening, I stood on my balcony again, watching the Miami skyline fade into twilight. The same view I'd stared at the night of Veronica's wedding, when everything felt like it was falling apart. Only now, it felt like I'd stepped out of that collapse and into my own life. The city lights blinked like scattered stars. Somewhere below, music drifted up from a restaurant patio, a saxophone weaving through soft chatter. I took out my phone, opened my notes app, and started typing a list. Not of tasks, but of promises. Things I owe myself. To never chase people who only look when I'm convenient. To build something that's mine, even if it's small. To rest without guilt. To remember that peace doesn't need an audience. I stared at the 4th line for a while, then added a 5th. To forgive quietly when I'm ready, not when they ask. I locked my phone and leaned on the balcony railing. The air smelled like ocean and asphalt and new beginnings. Wendy texted, "Bar tonight? Celebrate the end of the melodrama?" I typed back, "Rain check, I'm good right here." She replied with a single emoji, a gold star. I smiled. For once, I didn't need a crowd, a speech, or anyone's applause. I had my own piece, and it was loud enough.